Just this past week, it was reported a mass shooter in Texas called an FBI tip line just before his rampage. The FBI says he was rambling. The FBI has taken a lot of flack in recent years for allegedly missing red flags before terrorist attacks on U.S. soil, such as Islamic extremist bombings at the Boston Marathon in New York and shootings in San Bernardino, California, and at an Orlando nightclub. Now, with an uptick in racially motivated domestic terrorism, the FBI's head of counterterrorism, Mike McGaritty, spoke about the challenges and some successes in an exclusive interview with Scott Thuman.
More people affiliated with al-Qaeda now than in years past, absolutely.
What's that from?
That's just, they've been quiet. I think most people think they're back here. We have not taken our eyes off the target.
As a career FBI agent, Mike McGaritty doesn't do many interviews. This is his first on-camera conversation since he took over as head of the FBI's counterterrorism division more than a year and a half ago. How much of a threat does ISIS still pose?
I still think ISIS is the same threat it is today in the United States. As the physical caliphate has shrunk, it's like a balloon. You push it here, it's going to expand somewhere else. Those foreign fighters have to go somewhere, thousands of them. What was, here's the ideology, come to the physical caliphate, come over here and fight with us, is now go conduct an attack where you are.
International terror groups are just one part of the FBI's work. The threat of domestic attacks is growing, like the shooting targeting Hispanics by a suspected white supremacist in El Paso, Texas last month that killed 22. And another one in Dayton, Ohio that left 9 dead by a man who reportedly supported the far-left Antifa or anti-fascist movement. You've got right now, give or take, 850 domestic terrorism cases?
Approximately.
A 30 to 40% rise since October.
A 30 to 40% increase in those racially motivated violent extremists who support the notion of white supremacy. That we've seen the increase from October through May of this year.
Are you seeing more anti-government cases?
We have seen, just like we've seen on the racially motivated violent extremists, we have seen an increase in anti-government cases as well.
Like that of Coast Guard Lieutenant Chris Hessen, who the FBI arrested for allegedly stockpiling weapons with plans to kill prominent politicians in Washington, D.C. You've said that the flash to bang time has gotten shorter. What do you mean by that?
The radicalization can still take quite a bit of time, but the mobilization of violence, what used to take years, now literally takes months. I'm talking in a matter of a couple of weeks, and then mobilize to violence quickly, again in a couple of weeks. So we've opened cases and made arrests on international terrorism and domestic terrorism cases, all within a few-week period.
When it comes to the current laws, right now, no domestic terrorism statute on the books, and I think that would surprise a lot of people. Is it easier or harder for you to pursue a domestic terrorist versus an international one?
There's certainly more tools in the toolbox for an international terrorism subject for us to look at. If you were to compare it to domestic terrorism, many of those subjects we arrest on non-federal terrorism charges. So we will use whatever charge we have available. We want to stop the threat. So if it means we're going to use a fraud charge, a gun charge, a weapons charge, an immigration charge, whatever it is, we're going to use those charges to take that person off before they attack.
Does Congress need to give you more power?
I don't think it's appropriate for me, Mike McGaritty, to tell you what Congress should do. I think Congress understands the threat, and I know they're working with the Department of Justice.
Senator Dick Durbin, in a recent hearing, asked if the FBI wasn't tough enough on white nationalist crimes under this current administration.
I can tell you what the cases and the arrest numbers and what the men and women of the FBI are doing every day. When we look at terrorism, we don't differentiate between international terrorism and domestic terrorism. When that threat and when that case comes in, we work it hard. After
an attack, people typically say, well, look at the postings from this suspect. How did they not know? How did they not go after him ahead of time? Well, the American people, I'm pretty sure, don't want us trolling the internet looking at their social postings. People can hate, people can have an ideology, but when they're looking to conduct violence against the American people or subpopulation of the American people, that's where we are interested, and that's where we will investigate and put our resources against those threats. That's part of the free speech challenge, though, for you, isn't it? It is a challenge. There have been plenty of wins, too, like back in 2018 when Cesar Sayoc Jr. mailed explosive devices to prominent Democrats. The FBI led the manhunt, eventually identifying, then tracking him down within a week. And more recently, nabbing Connor Climo, a Las Vegas man allegedly assembling a bomb and about to attack Jews and members of the LGBTQ community.
The FBI gets a lot of criticism these days. Do you think it gets the credit it deserves?
Can we always do better? Do we make mistakes? We do. But in the counterterrorism division, we have a zero failure model.
What keeps you up at night?
The lone offender that we know, right, that we are looking at, who has the capacity to a weapon or multiple weapons and has an intent to conduct an attack. And we have those cases and we actively work them, but those are the ones, I feel comfortable with the ones, let me put it this way, they keep me up at night, but I also know we have a very good team at what we do.
So what can they really do to address the threat?
We've been following it closely. As you know, my brother is a field agent in the FBI. They're probably going to get some help from Congress right now. There are bipartisan proposals on the Hill to formally make domestic terrorism a federal crime. That would allow agents to more aggressively pursue suspects before an attack and possibly give harsher sentences.
Really great interview. Thanks, Scott.